Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Hymn of the Week. My name's Kerry Dyck, and I'm here with Pastor Harry Heidebrecht. And it's our privilege to come into your living room or onto your computer screen and share these few moments together with you. It will be a joy to see you again face to face, but now we get to see each other through a screen, and we'll be happy with that in these days. You know, back when I was first married, my dear wife, Sandy, chose to move to Saskatoon to live with me there in the first few years of our marriage while I was going to university. We would come back to Greendale, which is where she grew up, and visit her folks, spend a week or two together, and then need to go back to our home in Saskatoon. And those moments of parting were always emotional, because we love our family and it's hard to be separated from them. Saying goodbye can be a challenge. We're going to talk about that today in our hymn story. To get us going a little more on that, I've got a couple of scriptures to read. Two passages for our passage of the week this week, one from Acts and one from Revelation. Here's the story from Acts, chapter 20. Now I commit you to God, and to the word of his grace, which can build you up and give you an inheritance among all those who are sanctified. I have not coveted anyone's silver or gold or clothing. You yourselves know that these hands of mine have supplied my own needs and the needs of my companions. In everything I did, I showed you that by this kind of hard work we must help the weak, remembering the words the Lord Jesus himself said, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." When Paul had finished speaking, he knelt down with all of them and prayed. They all wept as they embraced him and kissed him. What grieved them most was his statement that they would never see his face again. Then they accompanied him on the ship. And now Revelation 21, a glorious passage, verses 1 to 4. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." Pastor Harry.
Our hymn of the week is "God Be With You Till We Meet Again" by Jeremiah E. Ranken, composer William Tomer. There are multiple stories to every hymn. Stories of authors, composers, translators, singers, instrumentalists, and also listeners. Each part contributes to a much larger story. We will never really know that bigger story until all the parts are brought together by Jesus when he returns. The hymn of the week, "God Be With You," was written by an American author, Jeremiah Ranken, in 1882. According to his own account, he wrote the lyrics of this hymn for no other reason than that he was a church musician and needed a hymn with which to conclude the regular worship services. The hymn was based on the abbreviation of the Old English word, which meant God with you, which is our word, goodbye. Hence, each stanza of the hymn begins with a farewell blessing. God be with you till we meet again. The hymn was popularized by D.L. Moody and Ira Sankey, who used it as a concluding hymn in many of their services. It was also a song sung at the funeral of Jeremiah Ranken in 1904. The hymn was translated by a German pastor named Walter Rauschenbusch, whose German Baptist church was located in New York City, right on the edge of a depressed part of the city often referred to as Hell's Kitchen. His congregation accepted the challenge of serving the needs of this community, some of whom were also German refugees. Rauschenbusch translated the hymn for use in his services. Rauschenbusch was also considered to be the father of the social gospel movement, and the translation of his hymn soon spread to Germany, and from there to German-speaking Mennonites settled in southern Russia. Revival had impacted many of the Mennonite settlements of southern Russia in the latter part of the 19th century. Soon a more somber and traditional style of congregational singing was replaced by lively hymns from America and England. Four-part harmony was introduced, and choirs became part of the Mennonite liturgy. Large songfests were often held, at which choirs and for the celebration large numbers of people would gather to improve their singing and to introduce new hymns. Soon the Mennonites of southern Russia acquired the reputation of being a singing people. Psalm 137 tells the tragic story of a singing people who lost their song. Their capital, Jerusalem, had been destroyed by the invading Babylonians, and many of its citizens were forcibly taken back to Babylon as captives. The psalm reads, "By the rivers of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps. For there our captors asked us for songs. They said, 'Sing us one of the songs of Zion.' But we replied, 'How can we sing songs of the Lord while in a foreign land?'" The years following the beginning of World War I were trying years for the Mennonite settlements in southern Russia. They endured war, revolution, anarchy, famine, and more recently, persecution. But the people did not give up their songs. It's one thing to sing, "God be with you till we meet again," when the likelihood is that you will meet tomorrow, or the day after, and again on Sunday. It's something quite different to sing the hymn in circumstances like that of our passage of the week. They wept as they embraced Paul and kissed him. What grieved them most was the statement that they would never see his face again. On June 23, 1924, the first train, loaded with 1,100 refugees in boxcars, began the journey to Canada. An observer wrote, it was time to bid farewell. Leave one's hearth, village, customs, relatives, and friends. People took leave of one another. Even the strong wept and many sobbed. It was time for the train to leave. And when it finally started moving, as if on cue, they sang a final song of farewell. And as the train left the station, they waved scarves and shouted back and forth to each other, "Goodbye, Follow soon. We will meet again in heaven. God be with you. Until the train disappeared in the distance, and there was only silence and tears. This scene was repeated quite often. A year later, my parents stood at the train station with 1,500 others to leave on their journey to Canada. My father's family left as a complete unit of 14 people. My mother, however, was the only one from her family to depart. She had been an orphan since age 12. She had lost her brother and sister through death. She now said farewell to her two surviving brothers, whom she would never see again on this side of heaven. Her oldest brother, Cornelius, died in 1934 as a result of burns in a fire. His younger brother was imprisoned during the Stalin Purge and died in prison in 1938. My mother sang this song as well, with great sorrow and yet with hope, assured that they would all meet again. We no longer sing this hymn often, perhaps at funerals. But COVID-19 has not been kind to us. Daily we hear reports of death and sometimes of people close to us. Perhaps it's appropriate for us to be reminded of this song and to sing along with both sorrow and hope. Listen to the music as played by Calvin and Heather Dyck, and sing along as the words appear on your screen. God be with you till we meet again by Jeremiah Ranken, our hymn of the week.